charges in the months leading to the August 8th general elections. Beside the numerous court cases ranging from ballot tender, vote tallying and voter registrar audit, the Commission is now fighting off another confidence challenge. After launching the audited voter register, an SMS voter verification service has failed to live to the expectations of many voters. Besides giving the wrong data of voters, the service is also going out random data of random identity cards numbers. But IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati has allayed the fear, saying that the information on social media is deliberate misinformation. He assured the fake dead voters will not participate in the election. Nonetheless, this is another voter confidence challenge for Chebukati and his team. Or is it? On Dawn Debate today, we look at the preparedness of the electoral body 38 days to the election. In studio, I have Mark Bichache, an election expert, and Bella Akinyi, head of NASA Diaspora Secretariat. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I know you're also adopt a polling station, one of those championing it, and Mark Bichache, political analyst. Now, looking at IEBC, we recently, or as late as yesterday, there was 70,000, I believe. If you send your ID number to 70,000, it's supposed to verify for you and let you know if your details are correct. But that doesn't seem to be working. There are some who have sent and they get strange details. Others get details that totally do not match theirs. Is that a point of concern? Bella?
100%. The last time I was here talking to you, I believe I mentioned that I changed my polling station from Lenya to Kisumu. And when I checked, it wasn't there. Now, you can imagine this time, and I had registered with my passport, not my ID. Nothing came back. So I asked a few colleagues, and
this you did, you verified physically? You went to the actual polling station?
No, the first time I physically, I did it physically in Kisumu, went when IEBC was rolling out stuff in February. But now, this time around, with the 70,000, I find that I'm back to the same problem. And then...
Have you tried it?
Of course I did. I mean, it was up. It was up, you know, in the morning, 10, and, you know, the up and down, you know, by some point it was down again, and then up, and then they were defending it on social media, then it was down at 6:45, and, you know, that tells us they're not prepared at all. And worse, the worst part about it, the disenfranchisement of the voter. For instance, there's a taxi guy whom I use quite a bit, Ngei, and he told me that he's always voted in Ukambani. Do you know his name is showing in Mathare? And when he called, he's been told twice his name is actually in the polling station back there. So what's going to happen to this gentleman? He goes to vote on voting day, he's told it's supposed to be in Mathare, or he comes back to Mathare and he's told... So this is voter disenfranchisement. And at this late hour, I'm really, really, at this point, I'm not even saying disappointed. We have to look for another option, and that's why I'm here with Adopt a Polling Station, because IEBC is not doing its job. Somebody has to do it.
All right. I'll come back to you on how Adopt a Polling Station is going to help the situation, if not make it worse, because August 8th is cast on stone. But let me hear from you, Mark, on this particular development, another blow on IEBC.
You know, the reality of any polling and agency is they have a responsibility not just to deliver an election, but also to deliver in the sense that the public must feel that they have credibility in terms of the polling register, the polling process, and the tallying process thereafter. One of the sad things that is happening now is the IEBC and the fact that there seems to be errors in this polling station, this polling roll, this voter register, as we call it in Kenya, is a very sad state of affairs, and they need to understand that you don't need to just manage the technical part of the polling process, you also need to manage the PR. How is it looking out there? Do Kenyans have confidence? And despite everything that IEBC is doing, I think one of the biggest disappointments they're doing to Kenyans is they're not giving us the confidence that they have their hands fully on this thing on deck and they have it in check. They're not giving that confidence, and that's going to be a problem because this election is so tight, and the tightness means it's going to be about turnout. And if I feel like my name is not going to be there, or I'm going to be disenfranchised when I show up there, or I'm going to find out I've queued for 6 hours and I need to travel across the country, country. Those are the issues that are going to bring problems if the IEBC does not check it. Perceptions equals reality in politics.
All right, and at this point, we'll encourage you, if you've not possibly tried it out, try it out and let us know whether it is working for you, and that is sending your ID number, the number that you use to register for your voting, to 70,000. And of course, it is charged. So, of course, those questions also on social media, who does that money end up with? But that's a story for another day, which we don't want to get into right now. But Bella, could IEBC be in a position, a precarious position, where they have been beat so many times that now they're anything that they do is magnified in terms of how prepared they are?
Okay, maybe, but you know, when you lay your bed, you make your bed, you lie in it. I remember the last elections just right here in Donholm, a practical example. I'm into practical examples, whereby somebody walks in and they're told, the president, the papers, we don't have any more ballot papers. And there's a line behind. And the guy just stood and said no. So imagine if the guy was intimidated and walked out. So when you have situations,
right there that
if you have a situation like, and somebody inadvertently sends in a text message, I think shows somewhere in Central, and says, is it okay? I got 6 voting papers and we were supposed to vote for a president 6 times. Was that okay? And we saved that. And that was the last elections. Now, here we are again. We are talking about a database. A database is a very simple thing. You enter a name, you run it. It's very simple. And you're telling me that a body like IEBC cannot run a database with just a few million people. A database is unaandika jina, you put an ID number, and that's it, and the location. You run it, how many people are in Central, how many people are in Rift, how many people. It is very simple. So these games they are playing, and I believe they are games.
So are you suggesting that it's deliberate that we are where we are?
Yes, let's call it what it is. Let's not call it a big spoon. It is deliberate, because if you have ever worked on a database, anybody at entry level on a computer program access database, there is no way you enter a database, Bella Akinyi, Lenya Primary, and the next day it's not, I'm still showing on the, that means you did not enter it. And if you entered it and I saw it enter, where did it go?
But you do understand there is also a challenge of technology, in the sense that there are times the system can crash. Anything could happen. And I'm not holding brief for IEBC, but I don't want us to just look at things from one side.
Well, I agree, systems crash. They don't crash 2, 3, 4, 5 years later in a row. They don't crash when the spotlight is on you. I mean, this is not about a crashing system. There's a difference between a system crashing, it comes back up, the integrity is there. So my question is how many databases do they have? Can they release it to the public so we know there's one database? Can somebody, it should not be a secret. It should be something that all Kenyans can see. This is a database. There's nothing to hide. It's not a domain of just themselves. And what worries me is that the establishment is busy defending him. So are they working for Wananchi or the establishment? And why does the establishment feel the need to defend?
You mean the government?
Yes. Why do they feel the need to defend this body that's supposedly neutral? So it begs to reason that, are they working in cahoots? What's going on? Is this for the Kenyans? So at this point, our trust, my faith, is only on adopt a polling station, asking Wananchi, you volunteer, protect your vote, linda kura yako, hakikisha on that day, is it 370,000 walked into those polling stations and not 1 million later? So you need to count 1, 2, 3, 370. So baadaye, you don't come back and say, oh, Langata had 2 million, but we know it had 370. So physical counting, we can count. I think we can all count and add and get the right total. It's basic.
Mark?
You know, I would not go as far as to claim conspiracy because I do not know the intrigues in the background. But the fact is that the IEBC has, number one, to publicly show off what is the voters' role in this nation, for both sakes of whichever coalition and party that is in power or not. Because the fact of the matter, if it's you're protecting against rigging, you're not protecting just one side. It would be silly to hide the voters' role, because what's going to happen is when queries start, I don't know whether you remember in 2013, they had a black book, a green book, a red book, a yellow book, a biometric register, and we ended up not knowing who is a valid voter and who isn't. So before the August poll, they need to actually publish the physical roll and have them outside these polling centers so we know who's voting where. That's one. The second thing that they must do, they must get into a space where they're managing the public relations and the image of the IEBC. democracy in front of the public. They have to do that. If they don't do that, what they need to understand is the integrity of a process like this in the court of public opinion can swing very quickly the moment someone takes a picture on that day and says, listen, I have voted using my dead father's ID. And that entire election is called into question. And then also we need to remember that this election is 50% plus one. That means one person, not 1%, just one person. That means one erroneous voter can change the sway of this particular election. So this is a high-stakes game. The IEBC needs to take it very seriously, and whether it's technical or whatever, they need to root it out as quickly as possible.
Do you think it's too little too late for IEBC to have their name cleaned in perception-wise?
Yeah.
Because it's, I mean, this is not something that's starting today. Right from, you know, Isaac Hassan and his team with the chicken gate. I mean, it's been one thing after another. Do you think it's too little too late?
No, I don't think it's too late. And Chebukati has an opportunity to fix this, because he just needs to do a number of things. Number one, he just needs to make sure that every voter is able to identify themselves on voting day. Number two, he needs to make sure that every voter has confidence in the voting role. And as she said, to be honest with you, it is an Excel sheet. It's a glorified Excel sheet. It should not have errors. You should not be able to query using a name, for example, when you're supposed to query using an ID. So the reality of the matter is it's not as difficult as they claim it is. I have a background in IT. I was there in 2013. I observed the elections, and the truth of the matter, even the amount of data they're talking about in terms of managing it, it is not 100 GB. You understand? It's a small amount of data, and it is possible. So the Chebukati-led team needs to be very serious about this, and it's very basic things. Number one, just make sure the voter's roll is there and it's available. Number two, just make sure I can identify myself when I show up at the polling station. Number three, now that it's at a constituency level, make sure that whatever results are relayed at the constituency level and at the polling station are consistent. And then that makes it a fair match for everyone.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Bella, is it too little too late for you from where you're seated for IEBC to clean up their perception, their what perception of what people think of them?
Well, personally, I have no faith, because that's why we have adopted polling station. Because if we did, we wouldn't even have had the need to create that. The fact that we have the need to create it means we have totally.
But does that then mean that you're already going into the elections with a perception that this is going to be unfair?
Well, it is unfair. At this late juncture, it is very unfair.
So is it possible to repair that? Because from what I'm hearing from you, it possibly means that regardless of which way it goes, unless you win, of course, or unless the side that you support wins, then it'll be deemed as unfair.
When we win, it's going to be because of our hard work, because of Adopt a Polling Station. Trust me, it will have absolutely zero to do with IEBC being cooperative, with all these issues of the ballot printing.
But then that would mean your win is also in question. Because if you're doubting the IEBC, then your win would also be in question.
No, it isn't. I have the right to doubt them, and I have the right to police them. We have the right to make sure that our votes are counted. By me ensuring my votes are counted because of their past practices does not mean that my vote is invalid. I'm making sure that there's 1, 2, 3 people who came.
Yeah, but from what you're saying is
thing.
that the only way that they will have done a good job is if you win.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the only way they can do a good job, which to date they have not proven, is the integrity and lack of voter disenfranchisement. In every single step, they are fighting Wananchi, every single step. The High Court has to rule that it can be counted at the constituency. Why are they fighting something that is good for Wananchi? So the fact that they are fighting us every step of the way tells me their intentions are not honorable.
All right.
If I may, I think there's need for caution here. And my caution is not towards IEBC. My caution is towards your voters. You see, one of the things that happens in worldwide is, even in the United States of America, the Democratic Party has its agents at every polling station. They have its agents at tallying centers. Why? Because that's how democracy works. Every party has a right to have agents there. So let's first establish that. The second part is, whenever in any particular political contest you begin to say that it is skewed against us, the danger that you run into is that your own voters will be afraid to show up because they'll say, my vote does not matter. So I think the messaging should change, okay? The messaging should be, just allow me to finish, the messaging should be that show up, we will make sure that your vote counts. That's what it needs to be. Not that we are doubting the IEBC. Just say that we are here, we're going to make sure your vote counts. You come and make sure that your vote counts, but show up. Because when the rhetoric comes that we don't trust the IEBC, some of the voters will say, let's stay home.
Okay.
And you don't want that.
I hope you don't mind me cutting in.
No, it's
One,
also,
adopt a polling station is about protecting the votes, and we're getting volunteers, and it means people coming out and getting out the votes.
Yes.
Voters are very savvy these days. They are not that behind. So the reality is that they know that this body is not giving them their fair shake, and they are incensed because it's not the first time, and they are coming out out of anger. So the voters are coming out in droves, and I'm very happy because I have seen it on the ground. So they're coming out. And our message is protect your votes and come out and vote.
I'll give you an example of the recently concluded Ghana elections that was done in December of 2016. And one of the things that in fact, this is on public record. So in Ghana, the electoral chair is called the EC. It's called the Electoral Commission. And the chair of that body made some very strange rulings in favor of the ruling party then. Now, the strategy that the NPP, which is now the ruling party, what they did is they did a two-pronged approach. Number one, they made sure that they're able to protect their own votes. But what they did is they made sure that they're able to check the IEBC, their EC, at every step of the way. So what needs to happen is make sure you have people checking the IEBC at every step of the way, but inspire the voters to come and vote, because you still need them to show up in huge numbers. The problem with the rhetoric that is happening now is that we are almost creating a space where we don't trust the referee, and therefore the players might refuse to come and play.
Okay,
and we need them to come and play.
That's one scenario, but
Yes.
I think the bigger question we have here, Bella, is the fact that, or let me start it from this end. What is it that IEBC can do now that would make you feel that, and that doesn't mean you don't do the adopt a polling station, everybody doesn't do their due diligence, but what is it that they can do so that you would feel the results that come out would be credible after they've been verified and checked?
One, the company that supposedly printed these things, that has to go.
And the ruling is coming out today, so we're waiting to hear how that goes.
That needs to go.
So what if the court rules that they go ahead with Al Ghurair to print the presidential ballot papers?
That'll be a disaster, because we need to be there, access. We haven't had that. That would be a disaster, in my opinion. Number two, you asked me, what do they need to do?
Right.
Personally, that's it. They shouldn't even be going to court for that. They should have just voluntarily agreed and looked for a neutral party. Number two, the fact that they've even refused and they're going to court, it makes me lose my confidence in them. Number two, in addition, they need to let everybody have access to that database. Then we test it. That's the time I'm going to have confidence in them.
Okay. Mark?
Like she said, absolutely. I think the first thing is the voters' roll, the voters' register. I think it needs to be publicly audited, okay, because we all know our dead relatives.
What does it mean to have it publicly audited?
You see, what you do is you're supposed to publish the voter register before the election day, so that the public can audit it. It's standard
Everybody
procedure.
Can verify and
Everyone can verify
their
name is there, and I can check to see my dead uncle is not there, my dead grandmother is not there. That needs to happen, okay, in a very public setting. And the goodness about doing it in a public setting is that then you won't come up and say that this is a social media ploy, because everyone will have checked, and you can go and physically say, I went and checked and this is there. That's very critical. The second part is this particular ruling that is coming out today. It's a dicey one. It's a dicey one because you've got 38 days to the election. And if you consider that time factor, you do not have time to retender and then reprint, okay? So that is going to be very tricky. What's going to happen, I think, in my opinion, if the courts do rule that Al Ghurair continues to print, then they have to give every candidate who is running in this election access to that printing process, okay, so they can see it from beginning to end. They can audit how many ballot papers were printed. They can audit the quality of the ballot papers. They can make sure they do not come pre-ticked and things like that. They have to audit how it's transported into the country. country. All these things must come into play. And that is why I'm saying that the IEBC must begin to play a PR role. And how do you do that? Inclusiveness. Include people, include people, include people. Include the political parties, include the voter, and make sure that you have a high degree of confidence coming into it. Because if I do the right thing, my friend, if you see, I'll give you an example. If you have a girlfriend, okay, and I go behind this curtain to talk to her, you'll suspect me. You understand? But if I talk to her in public, then what happens? You have a degree of confidence. So what needs to happen is the IEBC needs to come out in the public and make these things accessible. We are the owners of the process. So it just needs to make it accessible and increase the confidence level in Kenya.
All right, let's come to adopt a polling station, Bella, and how is this exactly going to play out? Because you'll agree with me that at some point, if not handled well, it can also be a cause of disaster, because both sides have, it's a very tight race, and if not handled well, it could also now be another center of power.
Where do you see the disaster? Because
what qualifications do the people who are going to verify those results at that point, what's their credentials?
Okay, adopt a polling station, maybe I need to clarify, it's very simple. And it's done many parts. Ghana did it successfully. I haven't heard of a negative aspect of adopt a polling station. Basically, we are saying, can you please volunteer your time as a party loyalist to come, be there, observe, just make sure that you're there, okay? Number two, if you can't, we have all these people, who need help, sustenance. Unlike the establishment, the NASA doesn't have the kind of money available. So we are asking volunteers to contribute through our public pay bill out there. And so adopt a polling station is supposed to make it work for wananchi, mwenye nchi, you yourself. Take your time, whether you're a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, boda, whatever walk of life you come from. So we're just asking in each polling station, let's just make sure this time you are not voting in vain. And this time we're making sure that what's in those ballots, what the returning officer says, is what's going to be read nationally. And if you see any discrepancy, report it immediately. We are just asking wananchi.
How is that going to be done practically? And the reason why I'm saying it can be a form of disaster, let's accept, first of all, that depending on who is on which polling station, if, for instance, the returning officer declares it's 1,000 at the constituency level, but somebody feels that for whatever reason they want now, one of the adopt a polling station persons says it's 1,500.
Well, adopt a polling station, there are officials, there are agents who are going to be doing that, right? So as we're just there to help out, to make sure everything goes well and observe, we're not really doing anything outside of the realm of what people do as volunteers. We're just volunteers, and volunteerism is not necessarily being physically there. We are also asking for monetary assistance. Now, the returning officer has a clear job, and as far as we're concerned, what he says at the constituency level is going to be proven. It's going to be shown publicly, we hope. And that's it.
So help me understand, the volunteer, what is his responsibility? Take a snapshot?
We don't, at this point, we don't know. I don't have the details, but I know that as volunteers, what we are asking people for is when you're out there, get the vote out. On that day, I'm sure we'll figure out how is it supposed to work. So wait, it's not tricky because we are talking about veterans. We are talking about NASA veterans who've been in election after election. So we know how to organize.
But the point here, Bella, the question here is, if we cannot trust IEBC, that is state-funded, that is an independent electoral body, that those in charge of it have gone through a vetting system, why would we then, or why would now NASA trust people who we don't know what their qualifications are?
Exactly what I'm asking. Exactly, because you've just said it. Why would we need to do that if we trusted the electoral body?
No, so this conversation is number one, the polling agents and volunteering at a polling station is a practice that is done worldwide. Okay, it is one of the pillars of democracy, and it happens. Now the issue here is we've not defined specifically what is the role of these people. Okay, now
we have. we are not sharing
two things that is critical. Number one is, how do you account for human error? For example, if I'm typing an SMS without even planning to be malicious, I can be planning to type 30,000, I type 3,000. Okay, I'm planning to type 30,000, I type 300,000, and that creates an error. So there needs to be a check-off system. The second part is, how is this information being transmitted, okay? And what information is considered valid? Am I taking a snapshot of whatever has been announced and then sending it onwards into the national level? Am I SMSing? Am I writing down my own information? How this information is transmitted is important, because it creates a degree of dependability on what these people are doing. What is needed in this process as well is there needs to be clarity as to what this volunteer is doing, what level of access they have to the polling station, because they are volunteers, they are observers, and they are agents at the polling station, other than IEBC staff. So this volunteer, to what level are they able to access the voting process, okay? To what are they going to do when this polling station has transmitted its data? Do they have a responsibility at constituency level to make sure? You understand? All these things need to be defined, and they need to be defined publicly. Okay. On both sides.
Okay, in terms of, adopt a polling station,
yes.
You saw it in Ghana. There is no secret about it.
Yes.
When we are reaching out to 200,000 Kenyans, there's no secret that you can keep with 200,000 Kenyans when we decide that we're going 5 per polling station.
Yeah.
It's not a secret.
Yeah.
So even the process, how we're going to be there, it's not a secret. We are not agents. We are not IEBC agents.
No, but you're allowed to have party agents.
Yes, I understand that.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, we all know that IEBC has its role to play, and we also have our role to play to ensure that the process, even as observing, we don't have to necessarily be inside the room, or we just can observe from the peripheries, and ensure that the process takes place, and ensure that our agents have something to eat, have something to drink. It's that basic.
Yeah. It is that basic, but the challenge that Kenyans probably would, and that's what I want us to address as we wind up, is the fact that if we cannot entrust IEBC, which we have put as, it's a constitutional body,
yes,
that has been put there constitutionally. The officers in charge of IEBC have been put there through a process which we would like to believe is a process that was transparent. They have been vetted. They have gone through all that. Now, if we cannot trust that body, why would we want to trust some agents against, if at all, their figures are going to be different? Because they're there to verify.
Let me clarify one thing. One of the things that the beauty of counting at a constitutional, at the constituency level, is that counting is not just the domain of IEBC. In fact, I'm surprised that KTN will not have its own tallying center the way CNN does, the way Fox News does. It should not be just a domain of IEBC. You should be able to count, and should be able to recall who the president is without necessarily going to IEBC. So this is one progress that I think Kenyans, and talking about the media, needs to make the next progress, so that the counting is not just the domain of IEBC.
But in the environment that we're in, again, we must be sensitive to the fact that if we made an announcement against IEBC, then we have a problem.
It's not against IEBC, it's counting. 1 + 1 = 2. So it is not just that they're the only people who can count. So and the Constitution, when you're talking about the Constitution, I believe that the Constitution is there, but let me tell you, we are allowed at some point, if things didn't go right with our founding fathers and the Constitution, we are allowed to adjust, make recommendations. Sometimes something is in the Constitution doesn't necessarily make it right. Slavery was in the Constitution. Does that make it morally right? So the fact that it's in the Constitution and IEBC is there doesn't mean that they're untouchable, they're unchallengeable.
Doesn't mean that, but we have to deal with things by the law.
The thing and here's the thing. Number one, I would like to agree with her that you have a right to tally. There's no law in the Constitution that keeps you from doing mathematics, okay? Everyone is allowed to do math and to do 1 + 1. The issue here that we are discussing, and why I'm emphasizing about her being clear on what the process is if you're not clear on what the process is, then what the voter and the public becomes is they don't know what to expect. And that can create a series of confusion. For example, you see in CNN when they say we are calling Florida for the Democrats or for the Republicans. What they're doing when they say they're calling, it means that we are able to forecast. And they have a high degree of confidence, number one. So that means that every person and every media house has a right to do that, but they have to be clear in their statement. What kind of results are this? Is it a projection? Is it our opinion? Is it... That needs to be clear. So what is lacking in this process, and what we need to be very, very careful, is we need to tell the public clearly what is their expectation come August the 8th. This person who's volunteering, what is he expected to deliver, and how does that compare to what IEBC is delivering? That is what I'm asking for. Let's just have a clear process, just the same way you need clarity from IEBC. Let's also have clarity in terms of what volunteers and what agents that are doing.
Let me just point out, our principal, Raila Amolo Odinga, in every rally, in the few rallies, he has been so specific about what Adopt a Polling Station is. He has been telling everybody, he has been walking us through it step by step. It's out there. So it's not that it's a secret. He's been saying it over and over. So we are very clear what Adopt a Polling Station is, what it's going to be like. He's been out there talking about it step by step. So for us right now, our goal, as I'm sitting here, is to just popularize it more, all the way to the grassroots, which we have, and get volunteers and get people to, like diaspora right now, they are busy trying to collect a dollar here and a dollar there, because the reality is NASA needs that help.
All right,
and you know,
we need to wind up, Mark, and maybe your closing comments on the preparedness of IEBC as you see it, and possibly what they need to do right now, given that submissions are going to be made today in court regarding now the printing of the ballot papers. That's still another hurdle they have to go. But what needs to be done for people to perceive? Because in politics, perception is reality.
Yes.
Not actually in politics,
in life.
Yeah.
For me, there are a number of things that IEBC needs to do. Number one, they need to involve the public. As in, please, Chebukati, if you can hear me, involve the public in every process, okay? Number two, if the court does rule that Al Ghurair can continue printing, let them involve each political party that is running for whichever office to have access. Let them even pay for the tickets if they need to go outside the country to make sure they're able to check the quality and the quantity of what is being printed, if in case the court rules that it should continue. Why? Because the time is short. If the court rules that, let them include everybody so that everybody has a degree of confidence about what is happening in this particular process, right from printing all the way to transportation, storage, everything, okay? Let it be that clear. The second part is they need to set the rules about what do political party agents do, what do volunteers do, what is the space for them, will they be accommodated, and things like that. Because the other mistake that would happen is for a political party to be left out of accounting process, regardless of stronghold. Because what has happened in the past is you find there are no agents for a political party because it's not their stronghold. These agents should be there in every area, because remember, this is an election of 50+1. Okay. So just one extra vote in the other person's stronghold can change this thing. So that's what I think should happen, and the IEBC needs to be very serious about this.
All right, closing comments, Bella?
Well, mine is very simple. I'm obviously here on Adopt a Polling Station, obviously. And at the end of the day, I'm just asking folks to volunteer. You know, we have our Adopt a Polling Station website. Please volunteer, contribute. We have a pay bill, 991-444. That's all I'm asking. I just want people to come out. Please be, for Kenyans, are very generous people, Harambee spirit. I know they're used to politicians giving handouts, but I want us to get our moral compass. I want people to start talking about the morality of this is the future of our children, our great-grandchildren, and I shouldn't be bought as an agent to walk out. We need to have our true north, and I believe most Kenyans are moral people, and our moral compass is important, and let's not succumb to what we are used to being given money and for food that's worth maybe 2 days to abandon a polling station and let other people who probably are morally corrupt and they're a very small minority to stuff ballots and do all that stuff. So I'm just pleading that let us just be peaceful. Let us please reach out into our moral compass and stay true north.
Thank you very much, Bella Akinyi. who is from Adopt Polling Station, and, well, Mark Bichache, political analyst this morning, joining us on the Dawn Debate and talking about the preparedness of IEBC. Well, we're going to take a short break, but do stay with us right here on Morning Express. And as we do that, we've got our band who's in studio, Creative Band Kenya, who are going to give us a tune or two as we get ourselves ready to get into the weekend. Do stay with us. We've got more stories that are making headlines. And also remember that we have hot topics lined up for you. But for now, CBK taking it away.